Have you ever wondered how you make decisions? You would like to think that we weigh up the options and arrive at a logical conclusion.
But every day we make countless decisions without even thinking or realising it. Every second, your brain processes 11 million pieces of information, but research suggests we can only consciously manage 40 pieces of information a second. That means our brains are constantly working to process information, and most of the time we don't even realise.
Because our brains can't manage to process all this information, we have developed mental shortcuts to save time and energy. And over many years this has become automatic. We do it without thinking. Hundreds of years ago we learnt to recognise danger as something different or unusual. And now this means we may react negatively to those who seem different to us, and positively to those who are similar to us.
Sometimes this automatic thinking can cause us to make mistakes. When we see someone, we immediately make judgments about them, whether we think about it or not.
These automatic thoughts can affect who we hire and who we promote. It is important to recognise that everyone has these biases.
It seems unfair to hire a CEO because of their height, or promote someone based on their gender.
But all these things do happen without us realising that we are doing them. The majority of CEOs are 6 foot, that's 3 inches taller than the average American, and only 25 of them are women. The good news is that challenging unconscious bias is as simple as raising awareness and taking a more mindful approach when making key decisions.
We want you to become aware of your own unconscious bias so that you can recognise the effect on others and take steps to tackle this in your workplace.
Take a look at this classic example. A bat and a ball cost £1 10p. If the bat costs £1 more than the ball, then how much does the ball cost? Most people, including 50% of the students at the world's leading universities, get the answer wrong. It's not 10p. The answer is in fact 5p. We've included the workings here for you to have a look at. A lot of us choose 10p without thinking. This is because our minds use instinct, or automatic thinking, rather than analysis. So think about this. Our unconscious mind can make mistakes. Our brains make snap decisions all the time. If we make these assumptions around simple questions like this, what are the chances we will be making automatic assumptions about things like hiring and promotions?
What if our unconscious bias determines how we behave around others and who we give a fair performance review to? Unconscious biases influence our actions even though we don't notice them. Challenge your thinking and you might discover some of your own biases. How are unconscious biases formed? They are formed by the culture that surrounds us.
Environment, media, stories and language all influence how we think and behave towards different groups of people.
To demonstrate this, think about this riddle. A father and son are in a car accident. The father dies at the scene and the son, badly injured, is rushed to hospital. In the operating room, the surgeon looks at the boy and says, "I can't operate on this boy. He's my son." How can this be? If you are feeling confused, it is because on hearing the word surgeon, your mind has thought male.
A glitch in your brain prevented you from realising the surgeon could be the boy's mother. About 40% of people make this mistake, so you are not alone. But this is a prejudice and can mean your assumption is wrong.
Whether hiring, promoting, or building relationships, cognitive biases can lurk in the back of your mind.
Research shows there are around 150 cognitive biases. Today we are going to focus on just 4 of them. Confirmation bias, affinity bias, availability heuristic, and the bandwagon effect are all particularly important in the workplace.
This bias is the tendency to favour information that confirms your pre-existing beliefs. People display this bias when they remember information selectively or when they interpret information in a way that supports their beliefs. For example, if you met a French person who loves croissants, you would think how typical it was. Yet if you meet someone from Paris who hates croissants, you would think it was just a coincidence that will soon be forgotten, right?
This bias is the tendency to get along with and often prefer others who are like us. It is easier to socialise and spend time with others who have similar backgrounds or experiences to us. It requires more effort to understand and bridge differences. For example, if someone went to the same school or has similar hobbies, we are more likely to get on with them. However, this can cloud our decision about which individuals are best for the business and may result in fewer diverse employees, which means less creative views and approaches to work.
The availability heuristic is a mental shortcut that recalls immediate examples when you are thinking about a specific topic. The availability heuristic operates on the notion that if something can be recalled, it must be important, or at least more important than the alternative solutions which are not as readily remembered. For example, many of us will have learned the spelling rule I before E except after C. The rule works for most words like believe. But some words don't follow the rule, like neighbour and glacier. But when we go to spell words like neighbour, our brains automatically recount the rhyme, causing us to make mistakes.
The bandwagon effect is a psychological phenomenon in which people do something primarily because other people are doing it, regardless of their own beliefs, which they may ignore or override. For example, when you are choosing between 2 restaurants which are very similar and you don't know anything about them, you will naturally be drawn to the one which has more people sitting in it. You will want to follow the crowd. So, are organisations biased?
Well, yes. Organisations are all made up of people with their own biases, and if the people in an organisation only hire people like them, affinity bias, then the organisation can be biased too.
In 2009, the National Centre for Social Research sent 2,961 applications to 987 job vacancies. These employees had all previously said they were seeking diversity for their companies.
The CVs had one key difference. Some were sent with names that were determined to be typically white, like Brendan. Others were sent with names that were determined to be typically African American, like Jamal.
Shockingly, typically white names received 50% more callbacks than those with typically African American names. This study suggests that racial discrimination is prevalent in the hiring and selection process.
Recruitment isn't the only common activity within the workplace that provides an opportunity for bias to creep in. Some other examples could be selection panels, appraisal and promotion, project allocation, invites for speakers, and research grants. Think back to our CV example. Do you think the names of applicants were important in deciding if they would be good for the role? No. So why do we look at them when selecting a candidate? Think about it. What other information appears on CVs that might also cause unconscious bias?
Does the year someone qualified, their gender, or where they live really matter when you are hiring someone?
You would never consciously exclude someone from the interview process because of their name, sex or age. But we know, thanks to scientific research, that you might do so unconsciously. So, take some time to think about how you can use systems and structure to reduce unconscious bias in your decision making.
So why does Kia care about diversity? What does it matter if we are all similar?
There are 3 key reasons why diversity is important for Kia, and why it's a big deal. Firstly, diversity leads to a broad range of experiences. If team members have different backgrounds and experiences, they can learn from one another and improve.
Secondly, diversity leads to creativity and innovation. Seeing projects from different perspectives can unblock challenges and open possibilities.
Thirdly, diversity makes Kia a more attractive employer and fosters a more inclusive environment where everyone can bring their whole selves to work.
What have we learned today? We know that bias is a real thing. We found out that we are all biased to some extent. We discovered that even small amounts of bias can have dramatic effects at work. We talked about the benefits of a diverse workplace. So what now?
We challenge you to create your own unconscious bias plan by acknowledging bias in your workplace, creating systems or structure that can minimise this, and holding yourself and others accountable.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the course.